Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Town Council's Grants Committee. Just some housekeeping first. I would like to advise everyone present that if you hear a long continuous siren, this is the fire alarm. Please don't pack up the buildings. You should leave the building through the nearest and safest exit by the back of the office, through the police stairwell. If this route is blocked, you should exit the building through the main marble staircase. When exiting the building, proceed up the ramp and turn right. All attendees should congregate at the rear of the top car park, wherever it is already taken. Wait until you're told it's safe to re-enter the building. If you're a councillor, we've added you to the register. If you're a visitor and haven't signed the register, please do so now. I don't know if we actually have a register for this. We must take a very clean register. Yep. Additionally, whilst the fire alarm is sounding, do not use the lift to exit the building. Can I please remind everyone to put your mobile phones on silent mode and put the phone away for the duration of the meeting, thereby avoiding interference from your iPad or with the microphone. The meeting will be recorded and live streamed on YouTube, and therefore, when speaking, please remember to speak clearly. As the chair of the meeting, I have the discretion to terminate or suspend recording and live streaming if, in my opinion, continuing to do so with prejudice to the proceeding of the meeting. Recording and live streaming of confidential items will also not take place. To alert me as the chair of the meeting, if you would like to speak, please raise your hand and wait for me to call on you before speaking. Please remember, if you leave the meeting for any reason, you will not be able to take part in the vote on the item that's being discussed at that time. Members of the public will be able to view the live stream of the meeting via YouTube. Can I please request that when speaking, you make your points as succinct as possible to allow for the smooth running of the meeting? And can I also take the opportunity to remind you to be polite and treat each other with respect at all times? Thank you very much. That seems to get longer every time we read. On to the agenda. Do we have any apologies? Councillor Richard Leese. Apologies noted from Councillor Richard Leese. Otherwise, all present. Thank you. We have the minutes or declarations of interest. Does anyone have any interests in the upcoming items they need to declare? Thank you very much. No declarations of interest. The minutes of the last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to have a look at the minutes? And does anyone have any comments or amendments to make to them at this stage? No. Do I have someone to propose that we accept these as a record of the last meeting? Councillor Isaacs, a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Strauss. All in favour? Very much. Duly noted. Fine. That one. On to a quick budget summary, just to remind everyone what we have at the start of this new financial year. We have several budget pots. We have reading glasses. We have. So we have in the community grants £55,000 in total for the next 4 rounds. In the sponsorship grant lot, we have £10,000. There was a £50,000 allocation for the youth grants, but this has already been allocated to the ongoing grants that we're running for 3 years. We have £10,000 that's allocated that was already given to citizens of Ice Sunset. There is £120,000 in the venue grant pot for the year. And we also have the small grants and donations pot of £2,500. The total for our entire budget for the year is £247,500, of which £60,000 is already allocated to ongoing projects. I will propose now that we note the budget. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ellis. All those in favour? Duly noted. We will do our best to distribute that through the year as best we can. So on to the first application. We've had a slight change of agenda. We've had a request from Somerset Art Weeks if their item could get moved to the start. So that was previously item 12. And we do have someone here from Somerset Art weeks. Button. Who's here from Somerset Art? Sorry. From glasses to see the back of the room. So I understand this is a project ongoing from a previous project in the Barneswood area to create a family and women-friendly nature area. Do you mind to give a few words about the project? To
Want me to do it from here?
There's a
There's a
microphone.
microphone.
Yeah, and from Taunton. Yes, this grant request is for stage 2 of the project. And just to give you a bit of background, Somerset Artworks has been running an engagement programme with North Taunton since 2013 that on the themes of art, nature and health and wellbeing. The programme always starts with free drop-in and consultation at the Pride and Prizewood events and has involved different aspects of the community, different age groups, intergenerational, schools, youth clubs. It's a very broad programme. Over the years, we've done a number of, as a result, we've raised additional funding to action any of the consultation and the projects that we've worked on. So we've done a pocket park restoration in Blackwood Gardens, we did the nature graffiti quite some years ago with Somerset Wildlife Trust, and we've run projects and quite a few projects with the community centre. So a couple of years ago, the new theme emerged around Linford Park and whether, you have to tell me if I'm going to run out of time, in Linford Park, and the desire that there could be areas of the park that could be more welcoming for girls and women and young families, in connection somewhere that could be a space which they designed, that it was particularly for what they wanted to do, how they wanted to meet. So we ran the consultation and the workshops with our lead artist Lucy Oates, and you very kindly as a council gave Lucy award for that work that she undertook last year, supported by Becky Swain, who has worked on the programme in North Taunton right from 2013. So this phase, we've been very fortunate to get a national grant from Nature Hubs, which is linked to a volunteering programme with the local Starbucks. So volunteers who work in the local Starbucks, which I'm sure you're aware is in the station, will be involved in aspects of the project. So we're looking to move to the next phase, which is the design phase. So we're looking to run more workshops during Pride and Prizewood, hopefully also to engage the local schools as well, and the nursery at this point, and the library, who are all quite regular partners with. So we're hoping to do the design phase, and then we're hopefully meeting with officers from the parents team and councillors later this month to look at how we actually get to the implementation phase.
I say it sounds like a fantastic project, and I'm going to preempt some of the discussion in that I contacted Councillor Pollard, who's the new councillor for the area around Lingford. I'm going to suggest something we haven't been able to do before, is in the fact that we actually turn down your application for this grant, but refer you to Councillor Pollard, because we now have the Ward Member Initiative Scheme, which is actually quite flexible. And he has said he would be really happy to back this project with his budget that he has for that particular ward, and basically transfer this project over to him, and he can work really closely with you on bringing this to fruition. So it will be funded. This is the proposal that we do fund it, but not through the grants. It's directly through Councillor Pollard and his Ward Member Initiative budget, if that is acceptable to you.
Yeah, we don't mind, we just want to do the
So yeah, so it's sort of a no, but yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so if the rest of the committee are in agreement with my proposal, and if you're happy with that, I will move that we reject this particular application but we will pass that on to Councillor Pollard, who has confirmed that yes, he would definitely be delighted to fund the project himself. So that is my proposal. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Strauss, all in favour? Fantastic. So if we know that that's going to get the board member initiative scheme falling through with Councillor Pollard, and I will, with your permission, pass your details on. I'm sure he probably has them already if you're meeting with him later.
I don't think, because he's new in post. So Tom Deacon,
Okay.
leading on the project.
So I'll make sure it's all relevant information to get in touch with you and work out what it is you need to happen. Thank you very much for coming along and talking about the project. I'm really happy we can support. Back to the running order. We have an application from Apple FM. Do we have someone here from Apple FM? Questions? Okay, that's fine. Details up. So this is an application for £2,500 from Apple FM to repair their outside broadcasting unit to enable them to engage in more events and publicise local initiatives and businesses more effectively. Do I have any comments or questions from the panel on this application? Councillor Ellis.
There was a comment about everything. Yeah, no, this seemed like a very good project to be supporting, because of the demise of Tone FM. We need somebody, one of these mobile units, and Apple are very good at delivering that. They stem out the sort of care community, and I think a lot of the presenters from Tone FM have now moved over to them, but they very much serve, you know, the community as a whole. So I just think it's, the only question I had was, did they send any more detailed costings about the refurbishment of the outside broadcast and event trailer, or are we happy just to go with the fact that, you know, they reckon a local company can get it done for X amount, or were there any more budget details?
They haven't sent over any further documents bar what's in the
Do we maybe want to say then, are we going to do it all at the end, or are we going to do them one by one?
Because we're over, I'll say this, because we're oversubscribed, I would suggest that we discuss the exact amounts to be ordered at the end, because there was a slight oversubscription issue. Okay. So if there's no further discussion, Councillor Isaacs.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It said in the application that this, if granted, would give access to other funding, but it didn't actually specify what that might be or how much. So I agree with Councillor Ellis that there's no specific quote there, and I think more details will be better. And again, if there is seeking other funding, what and how much that might be.
Yes, I agree that bit is not clear. It may have been tipped. What's not understanding the context of the question potentially, but it's not clear. Other than if they have had an offer of funds from another company, which I assume would be contingent on them getting the funding from us for the main part of the grant. That was my understanding of it. Okay, if there's no further questions, we'll put a pin in that one until we can look at everything and inform. The next application we have is from Bluebird's Theatre Company. Do we have someone here from Bluebird? Yes. Here, hiding behind the pillar. So this is an application for £2,300 from Bluebird's Theatre Company for the delivery of their magic flute.
So I'm Sasha Harriman. I'm from Bluebirds Theatre Company, and we're doing the Magic Flute. We originally intended to perform this as a mobile touring production last summer and to do community outreach with it. And I came to this meeting to talk about that. We were aiming to raise more funds over the years to make that happen last year, but it was very difficult to raise funding. So what we ended up doing was creating a stage 1 and a stage 2 of the project. So for stage 1, we managed to put on a scratch production of Magic Flute in North Curry, and it was free to the public. And that was a storytelling version of the show using an opera singer, using puppets and using live music. And then additionally, we were able to start growing the project for this year, creating a proper mixed bag of professional and community in the project. So the show is an opera, and obviously with an opera, you usually have quite a lot of people in an opera. We just have 4, and we have a cast of additional puppets to make it really exciting. We've reduced the opera, and we've totally changed the libretto, so we put it in plain speak and make it accessible for everyone. It's available for children and for adults, though nobody is barred entry, because we want to take the story out to everybody and show them that opera is exciting and fun. We've managed to build a project now, which means that we are going to do some professional shows, so places like Montacute House and Paragon Castle. We're also going to be working with Somerset Opera, so working with another community organisation to make the project slightly bigger for one show at Tacky Morris Theatre. And for that, we'll be using the Somerset Opera Chorus, and they'll be swelling our numbers. We make it bigger, we increase our footprint, make bigger connections. We're also offering some of the roles to people in the Somerset Opera to take on. So it's not just we say, hey, you sing in the chorus, we're going to do the fun bits. They're going to do the fun bits as well. So it's a proper kind of collaboration between our organisations. Also with the project, we're keen to make sure that we do proper outreach. So we work with young people. So we've got a work placement student who's a local girl, but she's studying at Mount View Theatre School. So she's going to come on board with us to learn about theatre production, to learn about making a show, the nuts and bolts of how an organisation actually works. The project is exciting because visually it'll be very, very fun. Visually it'll be very, very accessible. We hope to reach a lot of people, a wide demographic of people. We're also working with Silverbridge School in Taunton, so we're going to go there and we're going to put on a show, but we're also going to do workshops with the young people, and they will get to work with our puppets. They get to take part in the show and learn about opera, which is something they would never normally learn about. And I think it's very exciting. I think it's fun for young people to do that. I don't think opera is in the least bit elitist. It shouldn't be. And if you don't fund something like opera, then you make it elitist. So I think it should be out there with everything else. It should be out there with pop, with jazz, with all of a whole range of other classical music, and everybody should be able to enjoy it. The specific funding we're asking for this element of the project is to help us with our technical side. In order to be able to get people to hear what we're doing, we need good tech for all the shows that we're doing. So we want to work with KPS Production Services, Kevin Stratton Production Services, who's worked with us a lot. They'll be providing us with high-spec tech, radio mics so that all the performers can be heard, and our extra lighting equipment. So it's a very, very specific budget strand, which means then that I can think about paying some of my artists and the people I work with just for the day from the income that we have from the box office revenue.
Very much. Do I have any questions from the panel on this application? Councillor Ellis.
Councillor Ellis always asks questions. No, I think your review is amazing. I'll never forget June 2021. It was in Goodlands Gardens, and it was a free production, open air, and it was the ring. Amazing. That's ingrained in my memory forever. Like you, Sasha, on top of the opera house with your incredible. Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. So my question is around where people in Taunton will be able to access it. So obviously there's a performance, it's in the Tacky Morris brochure, because my Tacky Morris brochure just happened to come today. So there's that, and that's ticketed, and that's with Somerset Opera, the other thing. And then there's the Silverbridge. But is there anywhere in Taunton? I mean, I was thinking if you know, what would be amazing would be, you know, recreate what happened in June 2021, which is ingrained in Councillor Ellis's memory. But that isn't part of this.
No, but actually, because we now have some funding to go towards Taunton Together. So what I want to do is now extend so that for Taunton Together, I want to do the Magic Flute in Taunton Town Centre. And I've been emailing various people about where the best place would be to do that. So that's kind of a place where I envisage actually adding on to our tour, and it will be a totally free production, and everything will be there. So that's where we will be extending.
Yeah, on my question, I had questions about the funding, and that there is, yeah, as far as I can see, there's only one location in Taunton that you're planning to perform. I just want to remind the panel that it is in our policy that our aim is for these grants to support the people of Taunton and for the money to stay in Taunton. So we have to look very carefully at any projects that are specifically benefiting areas considerably outside Taunton, like Exeter. So there's in your application, it obviously said that the Arts Council sadly turned you down.
Yes.
You're waiting for Somerset Community Foundation funding. Have you looked at accessing funding from any of the other areas where you're going to be touring this production?
We tried the local, there were some local council grants, parish council grants, but we weren't able to tap into those. We have been able to get funding from the Goldsoncourt Foundation, so they're down in Exeter, and the Elm Grant Trust, and also another one called the Joyce Fletcher Trust. Those have been over the last few months, so those have been used to help create the production to get it to the point where it is at the moment. So our two productions, the two main productions in Taunton will be Silverbridge School, which is our workshop day, and then the Taffy Morris Theatre.
Well, will that be a free production or will it be ticketed?
It will be ticketed. The reason it's ticketed is that I have to be able to pay the artists who take part in the show. This is part of the reason why we've kept it so small. So we have 4 singers taking part because we can't afford to pay any more than that. We're making a virtue of it by saying, okay, we're going to have puppets. We haven't got to pay puppets anything at all. They're remarkably cheap to work with. They're great. So that's the reasoning behind it.
Okay, and then the additional funding that you secured through the Taunton Together, through Community and Place Committee, would specifically be for anything that happened at Taunton Together.
That would be entirely cover the Magic Flute production for that day, and for everything that takes place on Pop House.
Okay.
The Pop House being our mobile pop-up theatre where the shows take place.
Thanks for clarifying. It's good to get it in straight in my head. Do I have any other questions on? So I will apologise in advance that we're not deciding as we go along, but that seriously disadvantages anyone whose application starts with a W. You're listening to everything first. That before making a decision in the case of shortness of funds. Otherwise, thank you very much. You're welcome to stay and listen to everything. You're welcome to disappear if you need to. Thank you very much. Otherwise, I think we have everything you need. Okay. Our next application is from the Eco Centre. Do we have someone representing the Eco Centre? There's someone hiding behind the pillars. This is an application for £2,494 from the Eco Centre to provide workshops, activities and outreach work to promote community-based sustainability projects. Do I have any comments from the panel on this application? Yes.
It obviously ties in rather nicely with our climate strategy. That's for one thing. And they've done something similar. They did something similar. I think it was the 2023-24 first or second grant round. I think the very first year.
Yeah.
Which, if I recall, I mean, we would have had feedback about that. So, yeah, I've got a grip on what that would involve. So yeah, we can park it and come back to it when we discuss.
Yeah, this one is it's a scalable project. They have said in the application that they have an ambition of what to do if they get the full funding. It is scalable depending on how how much they got. So if it was a partial grant, there is a possibility they could scale the project down. If there was someone here, I was going to ask them why they haven't sought additional funding, but I'm aware that part of the project is funded through remainder of a grant they already have received, that they've ring-fenced funds to part pay for this project already. That's at £1,800 of match funding they have for outreach work already. I think that was quite a straightforward application. So if there's no other questions, we will move on. The next application is from On Your Bike Recycle Limited. Do we have someone here from On Your Bike this evening? So members to consider a general grant application for £2,400 from On Your Bike Recycle Limited to deliver a community cycling maintenance project in local schools within Taunton. I will just say, they mentioned the bikeability project in this application. That's like a previous incarnation. I actually was part of the administration of the bikeability project. I know that is a great scheme in itself. Frequently children would turn up to these events with the wrong kind of helmets, broken bikes, completely unroadworthy machines. So I personally can definitely see the benefit of this. My challenge would be it's a limited number of schools that we can reach. I don't know if the panel have any other comments on this. That's what Alice.
I always have a comment. I thought this, I thought this was a good fit with the climate and ecological strategy, obviously, because it would be promoting active travel, ensuring that kids can actually, have serviceable bikes that they can actually ride and have the skills themselves to think, oh, I've got a puncture, oh, what do I do? Or, learning about how a bike works. I think it's a, really good project in those terms. My other thought about I've written down, I can't find my notes, I've got too many gadgets, but I think on my notes I've written that, if what they could do with a grant from us under the grant scheme was limited to, I don't know, forget how many schools, but then there would be scope under the ward member scheme to roll it out to more schools. So it might be a question of getting some added value through ward member initiative.
That is an excellent suggestion. I think it's worth contacting them. Will, if you can make a note to feed back to them that I was going to suggest that the application says that it is for 4 full-day sessions. And my challenge would have been, is it possible to scale it back to 8 half-day sessions and visit more schools without knowing the details of the workshop involved? But if we could extend that with ward member initiative schemes for anyone with a school in their patch, it would be nice to know that every school had the opportunity, because I'm not sure how they choose which 4 lucky schools would actually get the visit. But otherwise, it's a really excellent scheme. Very happy to support Councillor Isaacs.
Thank you, Chair. I quite agree. It's such a big thing to have safe bikes on the road with children that it's really good. On reading through all the notes pre the meeting this evening, they do have depots or in Bridgewater as well as Taunton. Can we just ensure that what we granting goes to the Taunton area schools rather than probably out of our area? That'd be due diligence, I feel.
I think we can make that a condition of the grant, that the recipient schools have to be within Taunton. Sure, they would be amenable to that. There's no other comments on that one. And the next application is from Pleasure Dome and Somerset Opera. We have someone from Pleasure Dome.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Dear Taunton Town Council, it's a pleasure to speak to you all this evening. I am Helena Payne and I'm delighted to be speaking to you tonight about plans for Pleasure Dome and Somerset Opera's Cesare in partnership with the Taunton Sinfonietta and the Women's Institute Southwest. I'm from Exmoor, but I built my company creating exhilarating performances on nature's greatest stage, the Valley of Rocks. But now I live in Taunton and I'm passionate about creating outstanding artistic experiences in and inspired by the place I call home. In the summer of 2023, Pleasure Dome brought, actually it was a pleasure. Sorry, 2021. Pleasure Dome brought Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream to Castle Gardens in partnership with the Brewhouse, which we sold out. In the autumn of 2021, my first play, Louisa, toured to the Brewhouse in partnership with the RNLI, supported by Arts Council England. What's on Taunton gave us 5 stars, and described it as a story that everyone in the Southwest should know. In 2023, I performed Rosalie to a sold-out audience in the Brew Studio and was delighted to partner with the venue again as the writer on A Christmas Carol. This was a very successful festive season for the venue, and it was a well-received show. In 2024, I partnered with the Museum of Somerset and with Somerset Opera. We staged Dido and Aeneas at the Museum of Somerset. We sold out again, and Opera Now gave us a 4-star review. I've sung in the bandstand, performed in the Orchard Shopping Centre, and caroled in the High Street, thanks to Taunton Town Council. I've made it my work to fill Taunton and the broader Southwest with outstanding theatre and opera that speaks to who we are as a community, classical work reimagined, and new stories inspired by who we are and where we live. Cesare is just that, an epic story, with timeless music exploring local politics and the intensity of feeling that such an environment can provoke. We have an incredible creative team lined up. Edwina Strobel, who has directed for Somerset Opera before, who also has worked at the Royal Opera House for Holland Park and will be there again this summer. Musical direction and conducted by Noah Mosley, who's a stalwart of English touring opera and the English National Opera. To give you a little bit about what we have imagined for the show, Cesare, head of the parish council of Romebury, is visiting a neighbouring village for a game of cricket. Romebury are triumphant, and Cesare congratulates the opposition on a well-played match and superlative spread. But upstart Tolomeo is indignant in defeat. Who will win the bake-off? Whose vegetables deserve a rosette? And will Cesare be able to navigate village politics and bring peace, prosperity, and pleasure to warring factions? Or will there be blood among the party? That's the project. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful in receiving Arts Council funding. We've got enough time to apply again. We had some very positive feedback, so I will be applying over the next couple of weeks. We've got workshops planned with the Guildhall Young Artists. Obviously, Somerset Opera is a community-led organisation. But this ProCo model is a brilliant way of creating not just intergenerational sort of cross-pollination of skills and ideas and experiences. It gives young people the opportunity to work with professional creatives who are at the top of their game, which can be hugely inspiring. If you can see it, you can be it. And when you have the opportunity to roll along with these people, and it's happening where you live, you can say to yourself, yeah, maybe I can live here and, you know, be a professional artist and create professional quality work. And I think that's a very exciting thing. As an artist, it's really hard to talk about the value of the work that you do. But I wondered if I might read something from one of the parents of one of the singers who was involved in Dido and Aeneas, which I think articulates why what we do is really important. Betsy was 13 when she met Helena to discuss the idea of joining in for this production. She's never experienced anything outside of her school setting and is generally a very shy individual when it comes to performance. She decided with Helena that she would just come along and see what she thought, and that I would sit in the shadows for moral support, but she was free to decline the opportunity at any point. Well, roll on 6 weeks and we arrive here to this weekend, and Betsy is so comfortable that I was no longer required to hang in the shadows. Sad for me. I want to thank you all for making both of us feel so welcome. I felt very privileged to be able to watch your craft take shape and take its journey into what will be such a fantastic set of performances. You're all so talented and gifted that it's truly such a wonderful thing to be able to share with the world. I find it very moving and will need many packs of tissues. Observing the creative leadership from Guido, Noah and Helena has been a pleasure, and I feel very lucky, as if I've been in a room where magic is taking place. The professionalism of the cast members, who will know exactly what they need to do to shape their characters. I'm truly in awe of the mastery of the skills and the power of your instruments. The choir and Somerset Opera team clearly have steadfast commitment, and I really hope you all feel thrilled with how you've all come together. I can't write enough to emphasize the poignancy of all of your work and the gift that you give out for the audience to experience and the feel of the emotion of it. I'm sure you all must know this, but I wonder if sometimes you forget what it is to have such an influence on pockets of society and to inspire and tell stories of times past. How fantastic to influence and inform a new generation who don't yet know their path. Thank you again, and see you all from the audience room. So that was from Betsy's mum. And I think it's sometimes really hard to talk about quantitative value, but I know the work that we do makes a huge difference in broadening horizons and creating opportunities. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone on the council has.
Thank you very much. What lovely feedback to get. Must have been fantastic. Do I have any questions or comments from the panel? Can I go to Councillor Garside first?
Okay, because you said you were this. I mean, I read in your application that you'd be doing this performance all over the southwest. So, how many actual performances will take place in Taunton?
At the moment, one, but if it was conditional in terms of the funding and the grant, that we would look at the possibility of finding another venue, or
It will be, Helena. It will be. Think of it now.
okay, then yes, we will.
Thank you.
Councillor Ellis, you have a question.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that. I wish that we had sort of a broader remit sometimes, but we don't. However, I do think what you do is pretty transformational, and well, it's just amazing. Anything that I've once said that I'd go to if Helena Payne was opening an envelope, and I would be there. And I absolutely stand by that, because every single thing that you've done that I've seen in Taunton has been absolutely outstanding and amazing. So I'm really excited about this. So yeah, I would echo what Vanessa said about the Taunton end. Sorry, very tedious, but that's we're Taunton Town Council.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm just wondering about the sort of timescales on ACE, because sometimes it's a good sign if I forget how much you've asked for them, but if they've kind of given that feedback,
Yeah.
kind of, so this could be kind of give them an extra reason to fund you, couldn't they?
I think so. Yeah. That part of the feedback was to do with timing, and I put the application in probably earlier than, obviously for my own peace of mind, but earlier than in previous years. It's been a bit closer to the activity where I've been successful. So.
Sorry, me again.
Yeah.
And so I think it's great doing the workshops with Guildhall Young Artists, because they're so accessible. There's a it's really hard if you're a young person, especially if your parents are on low income. How do you learn an instrument?
Yep.
It's just really difficult. It can be out of many people's reach. The one thing that Guildhall do is with their music and drama, they have bursaries, don't they? So you get a lot of children who are excluded from all forms of music and performance otherwise. So I think it's great that you're working with them. Is the idea that some of them participate in the production?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we'll hopefully have members of will be part of the company, as per with Dido and Aeneas. I did consider, and it's a conversation to have with Mary Eade, the leader of the Sinfonietta, the idea of having shadow musicians in terms of the quintet who we're having accompanying, and potentially having a Guildhall young artist quintet shadowing potentially for the Taunton performance would be really exciting, and that's something we will hopefully be talking about, but that is not confirmed, but it could happen.
I'm just going to put the same question to you. Obviously, you applied to Arts Council England, and that's going to I'm gonna go at that. Good luck. That's difficult. As it is a touring show, have you approached other funders in other areas?
Yes. Yes, we approached Somerset Council and were turned down for that, but they've asked us to apply again this round that's just come out. And so they said, can you apply again? Fingers crossed.
Okay, and the other venues that you're touring, are they just going to be in Somerset, or are they?
They are mostly in Somerset. There is a few Devon, but that's mostly capitalising on the fact that the work that I've done has been at the Valley of Rocks, which is in Devon. So I have an audience within Devon as well. And the Queen's Theatre Barnstaple is a pretty cool venue to the opportunity to bring work to. To a certain extent, what we're hoping is that people will go, oh, wow, this is made in Taunton. You know, this is quality, dynamic, courageous, you know, brave work, and it's being made in Taunton. And hopefully that will make people go, well, you know, what else is going on in Taunton? The idea, anyway.
Central
Yes, of course. My other question was, obviously the total project cost is quite large. Are you happy for that to be shared?
Yep.
You need to know how much the arts cost, I guess.
Yeah.
But the total estimated project cost is £35,000. This application is for 2,500, which is obviously a very small part. I'm assuming ticket sales are going to.
Yeah. Well, I would say,
where would a shortfall come from if you don't get Arts Council?
so if we don't get the Arts Council funding, then it becomes a purely community project, and the singers are singing for very much reduced fees, and they're doing it because it's a learning opportunity. But as much as possible, I would like to pay artists for their time and for their skills.
Very much. Do I have any other questions on that application? No, thank you very much for coming again. You're welcome to stay until the end. You're welcome to disappear. I think we've probably got all the info that we need at the moment. The next application, and apologies, I think I got this wrong last time, whether it's ROC or ROC. Deane.
Hello, it's ROC.
I will attempt to remember for next time, which is the correct one. ROC. So this is to consider a grant application for £2,500 for ROC Taunton to continue the provision of their family mentoring service. And I know we have supported you in the past.
Yeah, you have been very generous, I think, about 18 months ago. So I'm Peter Fox. I'm one of the trustees of ROC Taunton Deane. We are a Taunton-based charity who've been providing family mentoring services in Taunton for nearly 6 years. We get referrals from all sorts of other professional people. And what I'm going to do is pass you over to Deane Wright, who's on my right-hand side there. Deane is our part-time project coordinator, and she will fill you in on detail of what we do.
Hi, we work with families in Taunton for early to call it, early intervention, that word skipped my brain. So at present we have around 8 to 9 mentors. They're all volunteers, and we have referrals from the family intervention service when it's a family that doesn't quite go into their field, or they're coming down from the family intervention service. Lots of our referrals come from the health visitors, and we have in the past also worked with the PFSAs in the schools as well, where they have a family that just needs a little bit more support. So our mentors come alongside the family to help talk about where would they like to see themselves in the future, and how can we support them to move a bit further along that journey, help give them a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. We also have a craft group, which is once a week, where we actually presently support some of our past participants who like to come and just get extra support as well as our present ones, if they can make it or they want to. And it's a bit of a drop-in centre, which is really helpful as well. Yeah. Any more questions?
Do I have any questions from the panel on this application?
Yes.
So there are those.
How many families would you say that you actually reach, you know, that you mentor?
So probably around 10 a year. That doesn't sound very many, but basically what we do is we start with 3 months. So the mentor meets once a week for 3 months. And then if the participant feel like they're not quite ready yet to stop the program, it can continue to a year, which means obviously if you've only got sort of 8 to 9 mentors running, because obviously they're volunteers, so they do other things as well, as most volunteers do, you just get a few. But we're not overrun with referrals, but it's a niche, I think, you know, before they escalate, or lots of families go under the radar as well. So when they're actually like, oh, these families could actually be helped here, we can usually help them most of the time. We don't have a huge waiting list, but we do sometimes have 4 or 5 on the waiting list.
So how do you catch them? How do you attract the families? No, I'm just interested to find
Yes,
out.
so basically it's up to the referrer to talk to the family and say, we have like a lovely little leaflet which tells them about us. Would you like to try it? And then I'll go and do a visit with them and talk to them about what their needs are and if we can help them or if not, because our mentors, they're quite varied. So it's really nice to match the mentor with the family. Like, oh, do I have anyone that can, oh yeah, I do. That person would be really great. And yeah, it's quite personal in that way. Yeah.
I mean, and is there any way you can actually kind of monitor whether you're successful or not? You know, how do you work that out?
Yeah, we do a check called a personal well-being check. So we do one when we start. We do one when we have a review at 3 months, and then we tend to do one at the end as well. And yeah, like I would think most people show that their well-being has if not gone up to normal, which is incredible, but definitely on the path to getting back to feeling like they're able to move on.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I've got a better understanding now.
Good.
That's right.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. That's really, really good. Invaluable. I see on the application you actually have been successful some funding from a Williton-based charity. Just one of the question is, how many families are specifically in our Taunton area, or do you go out wide?
This year we've had one in Wellington and all the rest have been in Taunton. The charity we're obviously dependent on fundraising from all sorts of different sources, and that's a charity that have supported us 2 or 3 times with relatively small gifts, but it's been very helpful.
Thank you.
You said you have some, you've had kind of small pockets of funding from smaller charities, small organisations. What happens if your funding streams? Yeah,
We've been in that position all the way through. So every time this time of year we end up running out of funding, but we've always managed to get funding from somewhere. So we've had money from the National Lottery, from Somerset Community Foundation, from private individuals, from businesses, from churches, yeah, from all sorts of different sources. It's always come in so far.
do I have any other questions from the panel on this? I think a lot of the panel are quite familiar with your work from your previous applications. That's not through lack of interest. Thank you very much for coming in. Again, you're welcome to stay. You're welcome to leave if you be. The next application is from the SCC chaplaincy. We have someone here from the chaplaincy service. Oh, hello. So this is an application for £2,500 from SCC chaplaincy to continue the provision of chaplaincy services two communities in Taunton. Would you like the opportunity to say a few words on the application?
Thank you. My name is Andy Hall. I'm representing Taunton Team Chaplaincy. This has been the Taunton Team Chaplaincy offers emotional, spiritual and practical help to people in our community in 7 areas of community life. Those 7 areas are residents and staff in 8 care homes in Taunton and 2 retirement housing complexes, the public and rail staff at the railway station and the Oak Bridge Viaduct, which are both known as suicide hotspots. Defendants, family and staff at Taunton Magistrates Court, where we have 10 chaplains, staff at Asda Supermarket, staff at the UK Hydrographic Office, the general public in Vivery Park, and with marginalised people, particularly rough sleepers and disadvantaged young adults. So we have a team of 31 volunteers and 9 associate chaplains. We're led by our lead chaplain, Adrian Price-Sankey, who is our only paid member of staff. He works 4 days a week. We are a Christian organisation, so we are motivated by our faith to provide compassionate support to people, but we will engage with people of any faith or none at all. And the request is for £2,500, as you say. It's to help us with our IT costs, particularly moving to a new website that we can maintain ourselves, a new data storage and email system. We're going to be using a Taunton-based consultant to do that. We've had a quote for that. We need a replacement laptop. Our current one is just life expired really, and the remainder of the grant will be used to defray some of our poor running costs. We take the measurement of our impact very seriously, and last year we reached nearly 3,500 people, and we call those significant encounters. I can just finish by reading a quote from the annual report for this year. This is a quote from a lady who said this: "Having someone listen to me and to help me regain my self-worth when I was thinking of ending it all. Thank you. I've got my son back and a new purpose in life," she said, wiping back her tears. And, you know, feedback like that for us fuels our work. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Very much. Councillor Strauss.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very familiar with the work of the Taunton Street Team Chaplaincy. We know Adrian Price-Sankey very well. I just want to ask you a couple of questions. One is, it's always intrigued me. There's also the street pastors. Now they're a separate organisation to you, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
How does their work differ from yours then?
They work in the nighttime economy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
that answers that question.
Mainly with young people.
And the other thing is, obviously, every penny you get is going to be allocated for very good reasons. There is an organisation which will supply free and refurbished laptop to community organisations. Would that help? Because the grant that we give you could perhaps be used for purposes other than the laptop, if that helps.
It would certainly help. We have an administrator as well who needs a laptop as well. Yes. So he's a contracted person, actually, not employed by us, but we have to supply him with a laptop. So you know, if there are other opportunities, that's very useful to know. Thank you.
He's an ex-councillor who does a lot of work for the community in that regard.
Thank you. Maybe I could speak to you.
Please,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
So do you make a note to make sure that the class details are passed on? Thank you very much. Do I have any other questions on that application? Thanks. So thank you very much for you supplies a really detailed breakdown of your overall costs. It's really interesting to see where it's all going. The fact this is, you know, for a notionally very specific part of that budget. But I just noted that you have sadly a forecast deficit at the moment of over £8,000. What plans have you got to try and that
Well,
deficit?
yeah, sure. We've got a grant application in that's been sent off in December of last year to the Firish Foundation for £8,000. We haven't heard the result of that application yet. If we're not successful with that, however, we will make applications to other grant funders. I keep a database of potential funders for us, so that would go off fairly quickly. Like Peter in the rock position, we've never had certainty of funding. We've been running 15 years now, and about 1/3 of our income comes from local donations, people, private individuals and churches, and 2/3 from external grants. We want to increase the local donations and hopefully donations from churches, and we're going to be sending off appeal letters later on this year.
Good luck. It's a very tough environment out there.
Yeah.
Councillor Isaacs.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. And I'm blown away when I read your application there. Really great work you're doing. I think I read in there as well that Adrian Price is retiring this year.
Retiring in July of 2026.
Oh, yeah. A little way away. And he's the lead chaplain, is he?
That's right. That's right.
You detail his salary, you know, or funds that he gets there. Will that have an impact on that amount of funding, you think, to replace Adrian? Or don't think he can be replaced.
Adrian is irreplaceable, isn't he?
Yes.
We would want to offer a similar salary to get the best quality candidate. And I think Adrian is of the opinion that if we can raise enough money to employ a full-time person rather than 4 days a week, we're more likely to get somebody moving into the area, into Taunton from away, and that potentially could give us a better quality of candidate, but we don't know. So yes, we will certainly be looking to continue with a paid post, because it's you know, managing 31 volunteers is a big job, and keeping those community connections going that Adrian is so good at, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Lovely, thank you.
All questions on that application? Thank you very much for coming, talking about the work that you do.
Thank you.
And the next application would have been Somerset Artworks. We have already heard from them. So we move on to item 13, which is the sound of the streets. We have someone here from so this is an application. They have actually asked for £5,000 for Sound of the Streets to deliver a year-long programme of events. Open. I should point out this application was for a community grant, and the normal cap for that is £2,500. Do we have any comments from the panel on this? Councillor Ellis, thank you.
I'm desperate for this to become an annual event. I mean, it looks like it is going to be doing that. And amazing. I mean, Arts Council funding now is like, it's so hard to get. and did such a good application. So he's got that in the bag, but Taunton is kind of the epicentre, and I think their idea is to make Taunton a centre of street bands and street music in the UK. But this event that they're going to do, because the thing is they do stuff all throughout the year in the run up, but the event on, I think he was thinking, oh, was it July 13th? There will be dancing in the street, or quite literally dancing in the streets to street music, including Kinetica Blocco. So I think for me, it's a really, really amazing project. It's just how much and whether we do it as a grant or sponsorship.
That's for Isaac.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm looking on point 34 of the application. I see that Bridgewater Town Council has confirmed a fund of money. That's £4,000 and we're asked for 5. I wonder what the difference was, or could we find that? I would have thought similar size town were getting a similar size input. You know, to correlate that, that's there's other towns, other confirmed funding. But I'm just equating it to the Bridgewater size, really.
They are smaller than us. Not that I'm competitive, but they are smaller than tiny little chest. Yeah, so yeah, they have confirmed quite a considerable amount of funding, which is really, really impressive. Basically, yeah, to get the Arts Council funding is an achievement in itself. I was wondering why this hadn't been requested as a sponsorship request, because the sponsorship cap is different to the community grant. We could consider something to consider later on as to which particular pot this comes out of, in that it generally their events are free, which is the stipulation for sponsorship. So generally speaking, I think we have given them sponsorship before. So it may be that this application is actually suitable for sponsorship rather than the community grants. So we'll have to look at the figures later. I have limited questions on that one because also we're quite familiar with their event. I think it's also worth pointing out that we already fund Sound of the Streets through the youth grant, which is not for that specific event, but for ongoing workshops with young people, which contribute towards the main Sound of the Streets event. There's quite a lot of strands to what they do, but they do have a small amount of funding from us already as an ongoing thing, so that they will get that through the youth grant this year. I would like to identify if there's any overlap in that funding. So moving on, item 14, which is an application from Taunton Minster. Do we have someone from Taunton Minster here? Thank you. This is an application for £2,410 from Taunton Minster to install bike racks in the churchyard for use by visitors, worshippers and the general public. If you'd like to say a few words about your application.
Yes, my name's Ben Whitworth and I'm representing the Environmental Task Force of Taunton Minster Church Council. And this is part of our response and involvement in the Church of England nationally's commitment to net zero. In the case of the Minster, it has two aspects really, is trying to make the inside of the church more carbon neutral and so forth, and also to do what we can outside the church in the churchyard to reflect our commitment to net zero. And it may sound a bit prosaic, but it's for bike racks, 6 bicycle racks, because it turns out that actually Taunton Minster is in something of a bike rack desert. There aren't any in Cannon Street Car Park. There are some at the end of Hammett Street, but people who come to Minster or past, want to park their bikes thereabouts, are forced to find what they can to attach their bikes to. I can speak with some feeling about this, having lost 2 bikes inadequately secured outside Taunton Minster. People tend to use inappropriate things, either the notice board posts or the railings, which is, you know, not ideal for a grade 1 listed building and its surrounds. You might say, well, surely the Minster can pay for its own bike racks. Well, we could, but we do see these things as being of use and benefit to a wider constituency than just people who worship at the Minster or visit the coffee shop or the bookshop and so forth. And we see it as a service to the community, as well as just looking after ourselves. In addition to which, of course, the cost of the work that we're going to do inside the church, which is nothing to do with this application, but is going to cost many tens of thousands of pounds to try and find alternatives to gas-fired boilers and so forth. And in addition to that, our lovely tower is needing urgent repairs, and that's going to cost over £1 million. Wow. So we have various claims on our funds, and if the town council were able to help us with this particular defined project of the bike stands, then we would be hugely grateful.
I was going to dive in with a question and a challenge, in that a significant proportion of the funds requested for installation, and installation of 6 might be the same as installation for 8. And my challenge would be to you, would be if we were to fund this project, is there any way that you might be able to put more bike racks in as part of the same project? Because I could see this actually being a really useful community asset.
Yes, is the answer. Yeah.
Once you've got someone in there digging the holes and pouring the concrete, the economies of scale are actually quite reasonable. I think 6 is fantastic. 10 would be amazing.
They do. Each one accommodates 2 bikes. So
yeah. And obviously available, 7 days a week, just for Sunday services. So thank you. Should I have any other questions or comments from the panel? Councillor Isaacs.
Yes, thank you, Chair. He mentions it in the your very good application, very comprehensive, that these were 6 Sheffield racks. What is this Sheffield? Is it something with a roof or something?
A Sheffield rack is a bike rack that goes like that.
Oh, is it? Yeah. I just wondered if it was a roof on it. Some
no, it doesn't. No.
Happen that might have rough sleepers going through, but if it's just somewhere you put your bike in,
yes, and it's either secured on top of the ground or to a sub-ground level concrete base.
I was going to ask how many the 6, and then there's 2, so that'd be 12 bicycles you could lock up there. Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you.
Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, no, this obviously contributes to our climate ecological plan. So I think it's a lovely project. And just suddenly occurred to me, I don't want this to be a barrier to anything, but is that you have to have any planning? I'm being thick right now. I should know the answer to this, especially someone planning West. But I absolutely don't want this to be a barrier to this going forward. But do you need any permissions to do the groundworks and anything, being as it's?
We certainly need a faculty from the diocese, which my understanding is instead of planning permission.
I knew that. Yeah.
The council planners are not so clear about this, so we're actually in the process of sorting that question out. Good question.
My other question is that obviously you're less keen on people locking their bikes up on the lovely railings. Is your hope that the people will just gravitate towards the lowly installed bike racks instead of chaining them, continuing to chain them to the railings and similar.
Yes, indeed, and they will be, you know, they'll be tucked away behind a notice board, but they're quite obvious and near the entrance. So if people are going to visit the Minster itself, then it's quite convenient for them.
Any other questions on that? Thank you very much for coming and telling us all about it.
Okay.
Moving on to item 15, which is an application from Taika Arts Taunton. Do we have anyone from Taika with us today?
Hi, I'm here. I don't have a mic. Can I
Oh,
borrow someone's mic?
Pillar. So this is an application for £2,500 from Taika Arts Taunton to create Taunton's first local cultural education partnership, LCEP, LSEP. LSEP.
EP, yeah.
Yeah, linking local schools and arts organisations. A couple of minutes to explain what
Yeah.
application.
Hi, I'm Jackie from Taunton Youth Culture and Arts Festival. That's Taika. It's an organisation, the charity is Arts Taunton that runs the project. It's existed for a fair few years before I came on board. I've been the artistic director freelance for 3 years now. And I'd just like to maybe say a few of our engagement numbers. Can I ask, did last year's project evaluation find its way through with my application as well? I think I emailed it in, but I've emailed it to a few people. But maybe if you're wondering about the value of Taika and what it does in our town, I really recommend that you read that evaluation. It's got quite in-depth analysis of the amounts of participants, and we've got, you know, about 50 quotes a year from young people for whom it's been utterly life-changing. We've got quotes from teachers from all of the non-fee paying schools in Taunton saying, we need this, we desperately need this. A couple of the headline engagement figures. So last year we do a kind of annual evaluation. Last year we had 3,148 participants. That's like unique individual humans. The cumulative participation was 7,098. So the way we distinguish between those two, that if a group of 30 were to do 3 arts engagement sessions, that is a cumulative participation of 30 times 3, 90. But participants are counted separately. So the 3,148 is kind of individual humans. We delivered 323 arts engagement sessions, and essentially we have meetings, about 3 meetings a year with all of the non-fee paying schools in Taunton, where we map out a programme of the year, exactly what are they lacking, what do they not have access to, and we put professional artists into all of the schools. We've got really positive relationships with all of the local schools. There's 2 main strands which we manage in the schools. One is identifying young people who have either recently been excluded or at risk of exclusion, and supporting them from a kind of well-being perspective. And there's very little expectation that this engagement work will lead to showcase performances, but sometimes it does. In fact, quite often it does. But also we're working with the budding young artists in all of the non-fee paying schools who are desperate to get kind of high level performance opportunities, and working with them. And there's a bit of crossover between those 2 groups. And we put on annual showcase events where they come together and show what they do. So for example, the annual school theatre festival, last year it was 2 sixth forms, the Space in Hewish, and then 5 local secondary schools who all create original theatre shorts based on the same theme and come together and perform them to each other and parents. We have a music equivalent that is starting up, it's in the process. We have a poetry equivalent annually. We work with Oh yeah, so live audience members at free festival events. Last year it was 6,704 people in the audiences. We worked with 43 different partner organisations and 56 freelance artists. So if you know of any arts organisation or freelance artist in Taunton that we don't have that active, successful partnership with, please let me know, because I don't think they exist. But if anyone's sat there thinking, I've never worked with Taika, then let me know, because we're open collaborators to all people. And yeah, I have so many quotes that I'm not going to bore you with now about how life-changing this has been for so many participants. For the last like 3 years, Taika's essentially been the focal point of the annual youth arts calendar, and there's a main festival day in July where kind of the year-round engagement work for the schools all comes together in one big shiny festival day, which is inside and outside the brew house. And it's not happening this year because we don't have enough money. I think historically Taika Festival had a reputation as having loads of money sloshing around and they don't need any money. And at this moment in time, I can be clear that absolutely every penny for the last like 3 years has been personally fundraised by me. And it's really hard to keep this level of engagement going without core funding. And I believe we used to get pre my time 10k a year from SWAT, Somerset West and Taunton District Council, and it was like a really core part of what they were doing. And somehow in the changeover we kind of got dropped off the list a little bit. And as I understand it, there is a list of like key cultural events which are important for core funding. I don't know exactly how it works, but we were missed off that list, and but I've told that we're now on it. I don't know exactly any of these things, but won't get money for like a whole year through that strand. And essentially, if we're going to keep this project alive, we desperately need to get as close as we can to those Somerset West and Taunton days of £10,000 a year for this project. It's all free, it's all inclusive, all of those types of things. And this specific project is about the LSEP. I'm really lucky. I've been a full-time touring artist for more than 10 years before I did this. I've worked all over the country, and so many local authorities, at risk of sounding like we must be better, do things so much better in terms of the LSEPs, where essentially the schools, all of the schools in the area get delivered a menu once in like August for their September, once in January, and it's every single arts offer which you can do, and how they link into annual events. I forgot to say that we're not doing our big festival day in July. We're doing a few smaller scale events, but we are basically throwing all of our eggs in the Taunton Together basket, that Taunton Together will, for this year at least, become the Taika Festival, the point where the year-round arts engagement work comes together in one space. And that's for this year, and that could be every year from now. I'm open to believing that maybe Taunton can't afford Taika and Taunton Together, and maybe we should become subsumed under that banner. And if that is the case, in many ways, so be it. Although I'm much rather kind of build on the work that we have been doing. But yeah, that's kind of open to conversation. But get back to the LSEP point, is it's about a joined up approach. We really, really desperately need to be. There's so much resource wastage where teachers are coming to me like, there was a project that happened and why were we not invited to be part of it? We never heard of that. And we've got other organisations that are like, we've got money to put artists in schools and none of the schools will reply to our emails, because I don't know if anyone's got experience of teachers right now, but they are absolutely on their knees. And if they get an email from Joe Blogg saying, hi, I'd like to come and do some like art workshops, then they just don't have time to even think about how they would go about that. Whereas a kind of structured, systematic way of doing it, where you get a really quite clear menu of these are the free offers, these are the offers for which you would have to pay, and these are the opportunities. And yeah, it's not yeah, that's essentially what we've been doing informally for the last 3 years, and what would like to kind of slightly formalize an approach. Sorry, long waffling.
That's all right. I can tell you're so passionate about your subject. Councillor Ellis, I knew you'd have some.
There's probably not questions, there's comment, a series of comments. So yeah, that SW2 budget, that was my budget, that when I was portfolio and it got binned in Somerset Council because financial emergency. It needs to come back. It needs to come back desperately for Somerset, for things like Somerset wide tour, all sorts of reasons. But anyway, we are where we are. This project is really quite key because well, for this year anyway, it's part of Taunton Together, and the Arts Council were like not quite wetting themselves, but yeah, they were really enthusiastic about the potential for, Tiger being part of Taunton Together, and that you're on the verge of putting the application or you've just put it in. So this is like a matchy funding thing for that. That's right, isn't it? Yeah, I thought it was. And I just wanted to echo the need for that's been my experience as well when I've talked to local head teachers, and they don't get this menu. They don't have any, it's just random things might happen, and maybe they hear about something, or maybe they have time to have a chat with somebody, and it's totally unsystematic. And we know there's a campaign going on at the moment. I went to the launch at the Tate of Hearts and Minds, and it was all about kids' access to creativity, which it's not on the agenda, it's not on the curriculum, and yet for children, it can be the difference between being excluded from school and being able to cope with school. It can be the difference between going on to get a degree and having all those career opportunities or not. Because I think if you're taking part of creative activities when you're younger, you're 3 times more likely to get a degree, no matter what your socioeconomic background is. So this stuff is pretty fundamental in lots of ways.
Could I just say an update about the Arts Council bid that I have submitted an Arts Council application, and we're going to hear back in late May, and it's going to be absolutely pivotal to the future of Tyker, and it's going to be massive for Taunton Together if it's successful. We're very optimistic. I, so far, touches everything, would have submitted 12 successful bids to them and 0 unsuccessful resubmissions, but I'm hearing such scary rumblings that success rates are at an all-time low, and this bid that I recently put in, I believe, is probably the strongest I've ever submitted. It's like an absolute open goal for public arts funding, but if it's a no, it really does put the future of Tyker massively in doubt. But if it's a yes, then we've got the next 2 years like a really amazing program lined up. So it's a big moment.
So this, it'd be interesting to see if this is could ever actually see funding or match funding. I know that Arts Council do look on those quite favourably. And I'm sure we're going to be working more closely with you through Taunton Together. So all of those things that you talked about, I think we carry on with our culture officer and have further conversations about what the future might look like depending on funding opportunities pan out. Obviously, this is just for this application though. So do I have any other questions about this particular bid? No. Thank you very much, Jackie. I really appreciate you coming in and for your passion and hard work.
Go to the toilet and then come back in.
Yes, they're leaving the room literally for councillors. So everyone else, you're very welcome to leave the room. You come back. It's voting rights. So moving on to item 16, which is Wellsprings Primary School PTA. Do we have anyone here from Wellsprings? I was really hoping someone's going to be here from Wellsprings. This is an application for £2,500 from Wellsprings Primary School PTA for a pond rejuvenation project. This is another application because it's very ward specific. I've spoken to both Rob and Nick O'Donnell, who are the ward councillors for the Wellsprings Redlarton area, both of whom are really happy to support this through the ward initiative scheme and do have sufficient funds in their budget to be able to work with the primary school on this pond project. So when we get to that stage, I would suggest that we decline this application on the understanding that the two councillors are going to look favourably on that. Is that correct, Rob?
Yes, Chair.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're going to second my proposal. Lovely.
Hopefully.
So that's, yeah, we haven't spoken to the primary school about it yet, but because of the subscription issue we've got, that we moved that across to the ward member initiative scheme, so that can be supported directly by the councillors in the area. Do feel free to get the word out to anyone you know who has a very geographically located project within Taunton, that this is a really good scheme to access. In which case we'll move swiftly on to item 17, which is an application from Whitmore Allotments. Do we have someone here for me?
Yeah, we have a little band from Whitmore. Like, thank you.
So this is an application for £2,500 from Whitmore Allotments to provide an environmentally friendly toilet facility on their site.
Yeah, and Jackie just helped to illustrate how important it is to have a loo on site. Thank you very much, Mark. I need to go too. It is really important because the site is a wonderful place where people come together, loads of different generations, families. We're trying to encourage different cultures to come in, and there are loads of health benefits that everyone's obviously very aware of in this audience. But they are cut short because we have to hear the call of nature and have to leave. Although some plot holders don't leave and they have their own solutions, which maybe aren't very sanitary and a bit awkward and embarrassing at best. And that's why lots of sites, both in Taunton and nationally, are looking at compost toilets as a solution. And our plot holders, our membership are really keen for this, particularly the women, I'd say, among us, who find solutions harder to come by. And so we've done some homework, and we visited a site locally and made some contacts, which are going to be nice going forwards for working together, for the allotments to actually work together more. And we've seen one in motion, so to speak, and excuse the pun. And we've seen the downsides of that one, where the liquids and the solids are separated, and this has caused lots of user errors, meaning lots of nasty clear up. And so the toilet that we've had a look at, that we think would be great, doesn't have this separating issue, and creates great compost, which can be used on the trees that we've been lucky to get from Thatcher's recently. And it would mean that we are able to welcome more people to the site. We feel that there are 75 plot holders who will benefit. But then today we had 3
volunteers from
the WOW initiative, and they are occupational health students, and they wanted to come and do some volunteering on site, which is great, but we don't have toilet facilities, so they were coming for the day. Fortunately, you were able to bring your caravan toilet, but it limits what we can use this amazing site for. Our social, I find the allotment an amazing place for social interaction. I meet people of all different ages, and I know that many of them, the older generation, have lost their partners, and they come along to the allotment daily, and they're integrated in a community, they're supported. Sometimes they fall out, but it's a really important part of Staple Grove, and yeah, I think it's an amazing place. So we would like to be able to welcome more people on site, guest speakers, workers when they come to do maintenance. There's no toilets for them, and so that we can maximise the use of the site and not have to disappear and call it a day because we don't have toilet facilities. So
You are, I'll dive in very quickly, Councillor Strauss, and I'll come back to you and say you're preaching to the converted here in that. I'm vice chair of the toilet working group, and Councillor Strauss is on the same working group. It's about toilet availability across the town. I'm really aware of how much it limits people, particularly the older generation, but also anyone with health issues. Sometimes you need to be within, you know, relatively close proximity of facilities. So planning a morning out of the allotment might not be possible for a lot of people. And knowing that there are facilities, you know, it could encourage more people to actually put the name on the waiting list.
and younger families, people with young families.
Absolutely, it's really crucial. Councillor Strauss.
Thank you, Chair. I wish that we Taunton Town Council could provide toilets for 2,500. It's costing significantly more, but of course, what you're talking about are compostable toilets. How much are they? I mean, 2,500, is that a contribution towards it?
It's a contribution.
How much will it actually cost as a matter of interest?
So what we've done is we've gone for a more compact unit to cut down on costs, and we've gone for a self-build. So basically it just gets dropped curbside and we do the rest, which is a good thing because it brings the community together and we share skills, and it's a great thing that we have the achievement of the toilet and the buy-in from all the community. So that's really great. So we've managed to shave off £360 for doing it ourselves, and for going compact 1,855. And so the total that it will cost 3,395, and so the shortfall is 895. And the treasurer assures us that we have the wherewithal to fund the difference. Yes, I mean we only have rents as a source of income, so we don't have much. We can't make a profit, and so.
But this is very commendable. At the end of the day, you have this wonderful opportunity on a lot of things in a much more simple manner, of course, than we have in the town centre. But I do congratulate you. I'm of an age where certainly I appreciate the need. Well done.
Thank you.
I'm sure we all agree with that.
Councillor Ellis, you can put a pin very temporarily. I'm just going to hand over to Councillor Isaacs, who has a separate proposal to make.
Thank you, Chair, and Sally Caroline. Sally, how much your name?
Justine Hallworth.
Justine. Yeah, lovely, Justine. This is another one that we feel that would benefit from the ward member initiative scheme. I am one of the local councillors in that area, so if I can liaise with you and over this, then we might be able to look at, you know, the full funding, but that would be with the South Nick O'Donnell, who's also the Somerset County Councillor. So I've got a card to give you, and if that's okay, we can take this one off the agenda now.
Yes, thank you.
That was a separate thing, if that's okay.
Yeah, so it's a busy day, phoning various councils to identify which side of the boundary you think. I would say the council of the Staple Grove is also incredibly keen about your project.
Oh, fabulous.
On the full side of the water for him. Both Councillor O'Donnell and Councillor Isaacs were both really keen. There may be sufficient budget possibly to fully fund your project, which is a lot of means to transfer over because it goes over the cap, the normal cap for this community grant. And I think we'll both be very happy to work with you.
Thank you.
On that project, if that's agreeable to you. It will go down as a refusal for this project, but Councillor Isaacs has got a card for you.
Brilliant.
Afterwards. I think sorry if that stole your thunder, Councillor Ellis. If you have another question, feel free to fire
No, but my question may now be irrelevant, but I was having a bit deja vu about the whole toilet thing, and I think we gave a grant in April last year to Whitmore. No, Whitmore allotments, but that you guys wanted a log cabin, unless this is completely me going like it was a meeting space. So I'm assuming we didn't give you the full amount that you needed.
No.
You did the things apart from the composting toilet. That's what I thought. I just wanted to check my understanding.
That facility was built by the previous
Yeah.
administration, so
Yeah.
to speak, and we want to be able to make the most of that.
Mm.
And without the toilet, it kind of
Mm.
not stands empty, but it isn't fully used.
Well, you're in very safe hands with your ward members.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I think we funded the other composting toilet facility at another allotment. So, very supportive of our lovely allotment community. But thank you so much for coming along, and I look forward to seeing built.
Yes.
So do
If
we,
you know what's in it.
Okay, no,
Then yeah. For the working group, we'll be there, like sure. So we're moving on to item number 18, which is on the sponsorship application. So this is Fuse Performance. Do we have someone from Fuse? Hello. So this is to consider a sponsorship application for £3,700 from Fuse Performance for the delivery of their second Taunton Twilight event in Goodland Gardens on the 21st of March 2026. So you're planning ahead for this now.
Well,
We'd like a couple of minutes to talk about your.
okay, thank you. Yes, I'm here on behalf of Sally Mann, who's probably more well known than I am in relation to Fuse Performance. Last year in September, we ran the first Taunton Twilight, which was an immersive, and what we're proposing this time is an immersive nighttime interactive fire and light trail in Goodland Gardens. That's one part of it. The other part of it is in relation to engaging a lot of young people basically in the creation of this event. And that includes already very interested schools in different parts of Taunton. Street Links, which is in Holcombe, in Eastern Taunton. Emerge, which is a new initiative in relation to outdoor arts, young people from all over Taunton. And with Fusion, who's a dance and circus organisation working in Taunton. So that group is working very much with young people and engaging them in the presentation of this event. There will be visual performing artists, musicians, makers, connecting the participants with Taunton's history, natural culture, including the beauty of the River Tone, which is right next to. And what we're really doing is, as well, is enhancing the residents' experience and enjoyment of Taunton. It's not a typical sort of light glow show. It's more about nature and the environment and making animals and creating interactive activities, workshops, etc. Last year, when we started this pilot scheme, we were amazed by a massive amount of people turned up in relation to Goodland's Gardens, and that was very wonderful. It's done at twilight because it captures a certain time of the day when people move from daytime into the nighttime. It was at the same time a family event, which was very wonderful. It complemented the daytime programme in Taunton and engaged lots of people within that area. With the woodland glades, lots of multicoloured treescapes, UV garden of delight, etc. It's sort of an exploration of a colourful, larger-than-life nature trail with sound and visual installations, music, dance, and circus, with making activities and food and drink and stalls. Last year, the Somerset Gazette called it enchanting. I think that's probably the best experience and the definition of it. What we want to do this year is widen the community engagement by co-creating and showcasing young people's work and families' work from different backgrounds, from different areas in Taunton, in this participatory and inclusive community event. I've named some of the organisations: Street Links, Create and Make, Emerge. They've been working in the Riverside Church and All Saints Church Hall in Holcombe with participants from all across Taunton. So I think that's probably enough to be said at the moment. I think that's my 2 minutes probably. And if there's any questions that need to be asked and I can't answer them, then we can provide it with Sally tomorrow.
Do I have any questions, Councillor Ellis?
Oh, sort of commenting. There may be a question. No, I went last year. It was really lovely. So I'm very keen on this because also we need a year-round programme of events. We cannot just be having things clustered at Christmas, bit of September, everything in Taunton together, bit of stuff in the summer. We need a year-round programme of events. And it was really lovely. And I think I posted on the council WhatsApp, this is good value for public money, or something words to that effect, because it was really lovely. And it was very magical, very magical. So I know what, it does what it says on the tin, as it were, Twilight. So I'd love for this to become regular part of our calendar, and it can just, evolve and whatnot. Question was about, I'm not sure, the ticketing and charging. Think about Hoodland Gardens, it does have a maximum capacity, which I cannot remember off the top of my head. So it might be something for future years. If it gets like more popular, you might have to kind of to control the numbers, have a ticketing thing. But I'm not sure about charging and ticketing for this. I'm not sure it's quite at that point where it would be, I don't know, needed, but we can discuss that later.
You have to come back.
Yeah, we don't usually charge for anything as an outdoor arts organisation. We're trying to be accessible for everybody. There is this thing this year, we wondered whether we should charge a minimal sum of £3 to come in. And that is because as a ticketed event, which needs to be in order to control the numbers, because it was very large last year. At the same time, if you make it free and you do it through Eventbrite or some organisation where you just basically have the tickets but you don't charge for them, there's always the danger that people don't turn up. And then the people who really want to come can't get in. But if you charge a small sum, they'll turn up.
Absolutely.
Now, it's a bit of a confusion for us because obviously this grant is conditional on no charges, free event. So that's something for discussion that you might want to look at. We can also
come back on that, and the other point about if it's a sponsorship, it has to be a free event.
Yeah.
I completely appreciate the logic of the charging a nominal sum to try and encourage people to actually turn up, because I know there have been other events where it's been a free ticketed event, which means there's no charge under Eventbrite or Ticket Source. If it's a free event, there is no charge for using the system. But you do run the risk of a large number of people booking and then not telling us. I do appreciate that, but if it's through sponsorship, it would have to be a free event.
Well, we're quite happy for it to be a free event. The only reason we're suggesting that is a way to make sure that we can contain, first of all, the numbers. We are secure, which is really important in relation to how it works. But very happy to go up either way,
Appreciate that. So it's a bit of a head scratch as to the logistics of how that works in the public space. I can't remember what the actual capacity is for gardens. Tricky one to police because
last year we think it was 1,500 people were there.
You can see what notes. Do I have another one? Looking at my notes. Do I have any other? Yeah, I just noted that obviously we are already funding use for a variety of different projects. And I was just wondering how much overlap there is in terms of the work that you're doing with Street Links and Emerge. How much is there an overlap between all of those projects and this one as a distinct event?
Well, for one thing, it's different times of the year. And one of the projects, one of the proposals of Street Links and the other clubs we work with, it's about output. It's about that they come, they engage themselves, and then they perform and do various workshops with us on the level of either performance or in relation to production, whatever it might be. I think that there's probably enough of events for different people to be engaged in different ways. So there's not really an overlap necessarily. There might be an overlap with Street Links in particular, which we've been running for since 2011, and they seem to engage with lots of different things. But generally speaking, it's getting bigger all the time, and we have new workshops with different young people. And this area of outdoor work is so important now in relation to performances generally. And there's no real training or place where they can engage with those sort of activities.
My other question comes back to the borrowing money side again. If you're applying, you were applying for money from the Somerset Fund, and Arts Council England is part of a larger project fund. And we already we're obviously very aware of how hard it is to get money from Arts Council England at the moment. But there is essentially a sort of £5,500–6,000 deficit. If we gave you the full money that you're asking for, there is still that deficit. Where would you be finding that?
Half of that deficit is done by support in kind, by us as an organisation providing infrastructure. The whole part of that is given free by Fuse. We've just received Arts Council funding as well for this particular period, and so we're quite optimistic, but we can't be too optimistic about next year. So we're in the range.
Okay, so that larger community project, you will be able to use some of that funding to cover.
The community workshop in relation to this.
And is your Arts Council bid kind of contingent on receiving funding like this, or is it?
For next year, it will be very useful to have this funding again in order to build match funding for the Arts Council. Now we have a clear trajectory with them, and they're beginning to again fund us in a way that's very much about community engagement and community workshops, etc. Very strong basis for us to go forward.
Final question: will you be touring the Twilight show as you did last year to other locations?
I don't think touring is the word. What we do is we relocate an event very much suited to whatever the town might be, and they're all different. So and they all draw from different budgets. But the Arts Council might go right across the whole of them.
That was the question. That if we're funding this project, or is this purely for the Taunton shows? I think you did one in Paul last year and a couple of the locations. So they're purely separately funded?
Yeah, it's site specific, so it's very, very much particular for a particular town.
Fine. Do I have any more questions on this application? Thank you very much. A very long agenda this evening. Such a short one last time. We move on to, we've got item 19. Is that withdrawn?
Been withdrawn, but we're very close to going over past 8 o'clock, so I need to vote to.
Should I do that now? Yes. We need to make all of our meetings 3 hours long. It's just ambitious to do it in 2. In that case, I'd like to propose that we suspend standing orders to enable us to carry on past 8 o'clock. Do I have someone to second? Councillor Strauss, Councillor Ellis.
We'll have a wee vote at some point, an official one.
I think it was, if we're suspending standing orders, I think we could have a 5-minute comfort break. For everybody else that doesn't have a bottomless toilet to go to. So in that case, we've got a proposal, we've got a seconder from Councillor Strauss. All of those in favour of suspending standing orders. That is carried. Move on to item 19 of many. If anyone would like to go and stretch their legs, grab a glass of water, comfort break. Yes, you're allowed to go as well.
I don't know what's more desperate. I'm on 27.
What number are we on now?
19. Thought about it. I arrived later.
Is it
5 minutes.
organisation name or is it a project? Yeah,
Organisation.
I'm sure it's organisation.
Put it on there. It gets stuck on Facebook. That wasn't on Facebook. It just came up and started playing there. Right, I'm going to shimmy.